One of the biggest issues that plague the United States is vapes. And who's in charge of regulating those vapes? Well, it's all up to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or what you might know them as the ATF. According to Gilbert's 2025 article, the ATF investigates and prosecutes federal crimes involving guns, alcohol, tobacco. They also regulate the importation and sale of all three of those things. You can tell by this graphic right here. One of the biggest things that ATF agents do are prosecute federal crimes involving those three things. So you might ask, what is the controversy? Well, it's simple. They have too many jobs, and this creates mistrust and disdain, not just in the ATF, but the government as a whole, and this is a problem. So what causes this? Well, it's simple. There are too many jobs for the ATF. The ATF has way too much to do. According to Chelsea Parsons' 2015 article, the ATF has struggled to define a coherent and manageable mission. So, there's so much for the ATF to do, they don't even know what they should focus on. Should they focus on alcohol or guns? This has caused most of the problems. This has caused the disdain and mistrust. So who's affected by this? Well, the first group and the biggest group are the government officials. Congress and Senate decide if the ATF even exists. The Congress and the Senate give the ATF their privileges and their jobs. So when the ATF messes up, Senate and Congress messes up. And this is why not just the ATF is getting mistrust, but the government itself. Another government official is the acting director of the ATF. According to an ATF 2025 article about acting directors, the acting director at the moment for the ATF is Daniel Driscoll. And he is the one that decides the mission. He's the one that figures out what the ATF should focus on. And when he messes up, the ATF messes up. And when the ATF messes up, he messes up. So he is right in the middle of this conversation. The next biggest group are the people employed by the ATF. According to an ATF stat sheet from 2024, 5,322 full-time employees were employed by the ATF. These people are in the middle of the conversation. If we get rid of the ATF, guess what? They lose their jobs. If the ATF gains more jobs, their workload increases. They're right in the middle of this conversation. And they also get blamed for the mistrust that's been created by the ATF. Even though they have no part in it. They can't control what they're doing. They're just doing their job. The next group are the people whose jobs depend on the ATF. The ATF gives out federal firearm licenses, or what you might know as FFLs. These people depend on the ATF. According to a stat sheet from the ATF in 2024, 181,831 licenses were given out in 2024 alone. These people depend on the ATF. These people follow the rules that they are allowed to do. They are permitted to do things that most people aren't. And if the ATF doesn't regulate the people that don't have these licenses from not doing what these people are allowed to do, these people, guess what? Lose. Because the people that are just doing it without these licenses get an unfair advantage. The ATF also regulates the importation and the sale of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And these industries are dependent on the ATF. The ATF has to regulate and make sure that other places aren't breaking the rules. And this is going under the rug. So people are getting an unfair advantage by breaking the rules and breaking the regulations of the ATF. So these people are very affected by this. So what are the problems that are going to be caused if we don't fix this? Well, the biggest one, and the one you probably thought of the most, was gun control. When you've heard ATF, you probably thought of guns because that's what they're mostly associated with. And gun control is one of the biggest issues plaguing America today. According to Catherine Sheffer's 2024 article, 48% of U.S. citizens believe that we should have stricter gun control. So almost half of Americans believe that we should have a stricter gun control. But guess what? That's not going to happen with an overstretched ATF because there's so many jobs for the ATF to worry about. They're going to fall short. They're going to have to fall short because they have so much to worry about. The next thing is vapes. I started this entire conversation off about vapes, and vapes are one of the jobs of the ATF. You can see this because according to an ATF 2025 fun fact article about alcohol and tobacco, vapes were part of the Contraband Cigarette Trafficking Act. So it's up to ATF to keep out deadly vapes, to keep out vapes that are going to hurt us. They're also in charge of keeping vapes out of the hands of children. And because the ATF is so overstretched, they are failing at this job at the moment. And it's only going to get worse if we don't fix the problem with the ATF. So what should we do? Well, my policy is simple. One of the first things we should do, we got to get rid of the ATF. We have to disband it. And this is not unheard of. A great example of this is the Interstate Commerce and Commission, or the ICC, which according to Will Kitten's 2025 article, was disbanded in 1994, and its jobs were given to new and existing organizations. And I believe we should do something very, very similar to the ATF. The first thing we should do is we should give away some of these jobs to existing federal agencies. And there are some great ones already around that would be perfect. The first two letters of the ATF stands for alcohol and tobacco. And I don't know about you, but I can think of other agencies that might be better suited for this. The best one would probably be the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, or the TTB, which according to the TTB's 2026 article, regulates alcohol importation and wholesale of both tobacco and alcohol. So they already do very similar jobs to the ATF. It wouldn't be crazy to take away what the ATF does with alcohol and tobacco and give it to the TTB. It'd probably make more sense. And another organization or agency that could be very, very helpful would be the Office of Criminal Investigation, or the OCI, which according to a Fleck 2019 article, are responsible for criminal investigations conducted by the FDA. So we could just let the TTB use the OCI, just as the FDA does. And the OCI can investigate and prosecute crimes of breaking regulations that the TTB already is putting in place. So the OCI can just add just a little bit more and help another federal agency, just as they do for the FDA. The next thing we need to do is we need to create a whole new federal agency. As mentioned before, gun control is one of the most sweeping issues in America. Almost 50% of Americans believe we should have stricter gun control. But according to Jennifer McCrae and Chop Brownlee, according to Jennifer McCrae and Chop Brownlee's 2025 article, as of 2020, there was 512.5 million guns in the U.S. alone. That's a huge amount of guns, and a lot of people want more regulations on them. So it's not crazy to think that we could create a whole new agency that can specify on guns. So if we do ever get more gun control, this agency can be more suited and can make it a lot easier to implement this gun control. The next thing we need to do is we need to create state-level agencies. These agencies could help the federal ones. And this is not unheard of. Almost every state has their own version of FBI. And these FBI versions are able to help the federal FBI when they have to come to our state. A great example of this is SLED. SLED helps the FBI when FBI has to come to South Carolina. And we should do something similar with the ATF or whatever new agency we create. Because think about it. Gun control is a lot more favorable in California than in South Carolina. But there are more people in California. So if we had a state-level version for both states, the ATF would understand what they could do in each state and what they can't do in each state. So what are the barriers? Well, the biggest barrier is Congress and Senate. According to Benjamin Hullock's 2025 article, it's all up to Congress to make changes to federal agencies. So Congress is the one that decides what they should do with the federal agency, what they should do with the ATF. So we have to get this to Congress and Senate, which can be very hard. And even if we get it to them, guess what? The government is not fast, and it could take years and years. And this is one of the biggest flaws in my plan. Another one is the money. Money is one of the biggest issues. Money makes the world go round. But I have a simple solution. According to an ATF 2025 article, in 2023 alone, the ATF got $1.6 billion worth of budget. So we could just take that budget and give it to these new organizations and give it to these existing agencies. And I think we could do something very similar to the employees that work at the ATF. They can go to these new agencies and be more specified and do a better job and more efficient job. So what can you do? Sadly, you can't do very much, but you still have something you can do. The first thing you can do is stay informed. According to Kathleen Jamieson's 2022 article, only 47% of U.S. adults could name all three branches. So it's not crazy to think that these people don't even know what the ATF is. So one of the best things you can do is just stay informed about the government and what the government's doing. This will allow you to realize there's stuff that's going wrong, and it will also allow you to figure out ways to fix it yourself. And the biggest thing you can do, not just for this issue, but other issues you think are big, is vote. This is one of your biggest rights. According to Census Bureau in 2024, 52% of people who were able to vote in the congressional election in 2022 did vote. And that needs to happen more. We need more people to do that. We need to have more than 52% of voices of Americans public. So vote for congressmen and senators who are going to help, who are going to fix this problem. Vote for senators and congressmen that are going to fix other problems. And this will also allow Congress and senators to realize that you have a voice and you are willing to get them out when they're not doing their job properly. So in conclusion, the ATF is overstretched. The ATF has too many jobs. But there is a solution. My solution is to disband, give away, and create new federal agencies. And we might be able to fix the ATF and fix the government as a whole. You might not be able to do much, but you do have some ability. You can stay informed and vote. And that's some of the biggest rights that you are able to do. And I believe that you should do them. Because who knows, we might be able to do this and find other agencies just like the ATF who can be reorganized and disbanded to maybe create a better, more fast-paced, more energy-efficient, more specified government that can help both me and you. Thank you for watching.